All right, so I'm making this video to kind of help people out because when I first got this thing, I had no idea how to wire it. I didn't know anything about these light plants. But there's a lot of them out there, and a lot of people are reluctant to work on them, especially in the antique engine community and stuff. I picked this thing up for next to nothing. You see a lot of guys just sort of overlook them at auctions and stuff, but really they're very robust, very simple machines. They were built to last forever, but they can seem kind of intimidating because they have to have an electrical circuit like you would have in your house to operate properly. They have to have a battery bank. I've got these 3 little ATV batteries, and they just barely have enough juice to run this thing. Like, you really want to have like 3 good batteries. These light plants, they are 32 volts DC. This is an 850 watt model. Delco Light made a whole bunch of these in different configurations. They made 750 watt, 650 watt, whatever. But by far the most common are these 850 watt, 32 volt DC light plants. And even these 850 watts came in different configurations as far as the circuit board setup and whatever. But to run one of these, you really do need a battery bank. And the best thing you could get, you're just going to have to drop the money and get 3 like 12 volt car batteries, or a lot of people will run like an 8 volt and 2 12 volts, or a 6 volt and 2 12 volts. I'm just running 3 12 volts. I'm going to replace these batteries with actual real 12 volt automobile batteries. Like I said, these just barely have enough juice all put together to run this thing. So when I first got this, I had no idea what was involved, and I think a lot of reasons why people don't want to touch these things, because you don't see a whole lot of them running. Like, you see them, you know, in people's backyards or in their garages or whatever, but there's not a whole lot set up. People don't take them to shows and have them set up and running and stuff, because these things, they need that battery bank and they need a load to run properly. You have to have some sort of a load on them, like a bank of light bulbs or electrical appliances or something, to make them operate properly. And as far as wiring, there was several different variations, especially on the 850 models. So mine has this single fuse and the amp meter and the starting switch. And there's a lot of, not even the 850s, the 650s, and so on, that had a big knife switch here with two fuses on it. And what I didn't know about these things when I first started working on them is that they need a load to run properly. And by that I mean, not only do you have your battery bank that keeps the load, or it charges it, but it needs they're designed to run with a load. So if you just run one of these off of a battery bank and you don't have some sort of a load, like this board of light bulbs or something, whatever, these things are designed to only run until they charge the batteries, and then they shut themselves off. So you need some sort of a load if you want to take it to shows and have it running for a few hours or something like that. But as far as wiring goes, if you find one that's fairly complete, the wiring's pretty simple. So on these with the single fuse, you'll see there's 3 main wires coming out of here. So so the one coming off the main fuse, this big fuse, is going to be your negative. The one coming off of your starting switch over here on the right is going to be your positive. And this one, I didn't know what this one did when I first had it. And this wire actually is your, I like to call it a load line, a load wire. Like, so these things were designed to, basically your battery pack was, it worked in the sort of the same way like an accumulator. Like this light plant would charge your battery pack, and excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, would charge your battery pack, but you didn't want to pull the full load from the entire lighting in your house from just that battery pack. You needed, because that would put a lot of stress on your batteries. You needed a separate line that came from the light plant itself that would run your lights while it was charging your battery pack. I mean, back in the day, that's what these things were designed for before the grid went everywhere. You could, if you wanted power, like I said, these things, they came out in 1917. So, and by 1930, Delco Light had sold over 250,000 of these things. Like, if you weren't in a big city, like this was your power for your house, your barn, whatever. If you didn't live in the city and you wanted lights, this was your power source. But when you'd call Delco and you say, I want to get your light plant, they would come out and they'd set it up all for you. But you would have to have a battery. This is tiny compared to the battery banks these things were originally running. Like they would run these giant, these glass batteries that were the size of a turpentine can, and they were 2-volt batteries, so you had to have 16 of these giant batteries, and that would power your whole house. And really all the light plant did was charge your batteries and provide supplemental power to your house as you were charging the batteries, as it was charging the batteries. So if you have a light plant that's got the knife switch right here with the 2 independent fuses, that does the same thing that this load line does. So this light plant, because it's got the single fuse, was designed for a house that had a separate lighting panel. So you would run this wire, this load wire, to your separate lighting panel in your house, where it would have a main disconnect switch, and it would have a voltmeter, an amp meter, fuses, etc., and then all of your lighting would come off of that panel. The ones that have the knife switch, that sort of served as your de facto panel. Like it had its own 2 fuses here, and then it had your knife switch, your main disconnect that you would use to disconnect the power if you needed to do some wiring work or something like that. And another thing with these is, like I said earlier, they are designed to run until the batteries are charged and there's no load, and shut themselves off. So say you were in your house and middle of the night, or it was in the night, everybody's going to bed, you shut all the power off, the light plant was running, and it was designed to shut itself off when you shut all the lights off. There's no more load on it, so it wouldn't overcharge your battery bank. And how it did that was, this starting switch right here, this is actually an electromagnet, and it's controlled by the amount of amps that's going through the amp meter. So the less amps this thing is putting out to charge these batteries, the less power it's going to put into this electromagnet. And there's this little paddle right here, and this, when you pull this starting switch, it pulls that paddle up, and when it senses there's no more load and the batteries, come on focus, batteries are no longer charged, it'll drop that paddle and shut the engine off. So as far as starting these things, it's a pretty simple operation once you have your battery bank set up and you have some sort of load on there to keep this electromagnet and this paddle contacted. Really all you do is, there's this little port up here on the top of the mixer right there, and you just prime that with a little bit of gas like that. I'm gonna turn my lights on to make sure I got a load. Okay, and then you pull this starting switch, and what that's going to do is it's going to reverse the polarity of our battery bank, and then it's going to engage that polarity into some windings in the stator and spin our generator. It's going to motor our generator to start this engine. And then once that engine picks up to a certain speed, it gets enough amps in this electromagnetic coil to hold this paddle up. Oh, I'm probably going to have to prime it some more. Come on. I just barely got this thing running, so there's still some twerks to. There she goes. So now when I let go of this, paddle, it should stay there. Nope. See how it stayed there? So now we're making power. And that is directly powering our lights. You'll notice I don't have the gas tank on here because when I found this thing, the gas tank had some holes in the bottom of it. So I patched them up with some JB Weld and stainless shim stock. So I'll get it back on there and get it running. And now, see, it's running. The batteries are already fully charged, and the only thing that's keeping it running is the load that it's got on these lights here. So if I shut these lights off, eventually it's going to slow down and shut itself off. Takes a minute or two. As you can see, I did put a lot of, I did take some use out of those batteries when I started. So it's going to charge those batteries a little bit. They charge in no time. But yeah, they're really cool. Pull this off. Open valves. And these coils, they've got a resistor in them. Oh, there it went. Shut itself off. See how that paddle dropped? It stopped. There was no more load on it, so that electromagnet lost juice. Pow, disconnected the ignition, and that was it. So these coils, this is the original coil, and there's a resistor. Come on, focus. There's a resistor in the top of them that drops that 32 volts down to about 6 volts to run the ignition system. And sometimes these coils are bad, and you can replace them with a regular 6 or 12 volt auto coil, and they work just fine. But that's basically the skinny of these things. I mean, I had to figure most of this out by myself. There are some resources out there if you want to know more. There's a Facebook group, the Delco Light Plant Collectors. There's the Dr. Delco. There's a website devoted to Delco Light Plant Collectors. But like I said, there were so many variants of these things, and the wiring on a lot of them was kind of tailored to the application they went to. So I mean, there's not a whole lot of them out there that people have running. There are quite a bit of them still out there. I'm sure you'll find them in basements or, old farmhouses and stuff like that. But it's not very often you see them running, and people that take them to shows and fairs and stuff like that. But so hopefully this helps anybody that was in my shoes and wanted to know how to get one of these going and gave them a little bit of help, you know, so that it doesn't seem as daunting, because I've built a lot of hit and miss engines and stuff. I've got so many projects. I've got this damn monitor hit and miss, this pump jack engine, this Cushman, that Fairbanks that I've been working on. I've got a ton of projects, but this is a completely different animal. It's not a bad thing. There's a little bit to it because it's not just the engine. I would say more of it so goes into the electrical part of it than the engine part itself. So hopefully this helps anybody who is interested in these things, anybody who has one that wants to work on one. I know that I struggled when I first got this thing. So thanks for watching, and hope it helped.